Yes, yes, sister, we can hear you and see you.
All right. Very good morning to everyone present here on the call, to the faculty and the students. I trust that everybody's keeping well and that you're all doing well. So today's mentoring, I will be looking at caring for our mental health, and I know that this is a topic that all of us are curious about. It is something that is also the need of the hour. So as I'm going through the presentation, in case if you have any questions, please feel free to ask me at the end of it. And just let me quickly share my screen. Okay, is my screen visible?
Yes.
All right. Okay.
Yeah, ma'am.
So before I begin about what mental health is, through your reactions and whatever emoji that you can use, can you please show me how you're feeling today? If you're feeling good, if you're okay. All right. Okay. It's nice to see everybody's doing good. We have an okay as well. All right. That's great. So we see that in today's world, 1 in 4 people we face various mental health challenges yearly, right? Which means it's of a concern because normally the ratio generally is not so high and kind of spiked up after COVID. But we see that through self care and taking care of ourselves well, we would be able to make sure that we have a healthy mind space for us to be able to work in and take care of our day to day activities and to be productive. So, when we look at what mental health mainly looks at our emotional, psychological, and social well being, which means it looks at how we think, how we feel daily, on a daily basis, right? So, our emotional being could be whether we are happy, we're feeling okay, we're sad, we're angry, we might be distressed, we might be disappointed, right? And when we're looking at our psychological feelings and the way we think, it looks at whether we're able to concentrate, whether we can be productive, whether we can think rationally and be objective when needed. And when we look at our social well being, we look at how well we can relate to other people, we maintain a good social circle, and we have a group of friends or people that we can rely on, right? And mental health is crucial for every stage of our lives, all the way from when we are little kids to becoming adults. It's really important. And like how we prioritize charging a phone, it's important that we learn how to recharge our minds as well. Because sometimes we tend to forget that the brain is also an organ and it needs to rest, right? Because of how abstract it can be and the functions of the brain, we tend to forget that it's an organ. So the way we prioritize our bodies and the rest of our organs, mental health is as same as physical health, where we need to look at how well we can take care of our minds and our brain. So, why does mental health matter? Right? So, mental health matters because it plays a very fundamental role in our day to day lives and it affects every aspect of what we do and the way we carry out our day to day lives, right? So, when we're looking at our physical health, we see that even when we fall sick, a slight cold, fever, stomach ache, or a headache, it affects how we may choose to function on that day, right? If the pain is too much, we're unable to concentrate, we're not able to do the tasks that we have. But if you've gotten good sleep and you've eaten well and your body is feeling good, automatically we are more productive. The brain is able to think more and do more things. And when we're looking at emotional health, if you're feeling good today, I'm pretty sure the rest of the day you're going to be productive, things will pull you through, and you'll be able to complete the tasks assigned to you. But in case if you woke up with a bad dream or you're not feeling so great today and emotionally you're feeling a little low, it's bound to affect the way you're thinking. You might be thinking more in a negative pattern. You might not be able to see things clearly. And when we look at resilience, resilience is one of the most key things that shows a good sign of mental health, right? People who are resilient are people who can cope through stress, are able to take care of the different challenges and to adapt in anything that might come your way, right? So adaptation shows that you are able to change with how the surroundings may demand of you, and you're able to apply yourselves and the skills that you know well to be able to adapt to how the environment may change. And when we're looking at relationships and productivity, was how, like I mentioned earlier, our relationships also influence our mental health, and our mental health may also influence our relationships. If we're in a good headspace and a good mind space, we may be talking to our friends, hugging them, sending them good messages. But when we're not feeling okay, we might isolate, we might withdraw, and we might also be mean and harsh to them sometimes, right? So we see that mental health looks at all of these different aspects of our lives, whether we like it or not, and whether we realize them or not. So, a concept that I would like to bring in today is understanding mental health as a spectrum from thriving to struggling, right? So, when a person is thriving, all of the key things that we mentioned about earlier, like your physical health, your emotional health, your resilience, your productivity, you're able to function well on a day-to-day basis, as compared to when we're struggling, where we physically may not be okay, we might be going through some stress, we might be angry, maybe a few things might be happening in our lives and we're not able to cope up with things, and that's when we may have those very difficult days during our seasons. But seeing it as a spectrum of one end of thriving and the other end of struggling, day to day we may fall anywhere in between, and it may also change throughout the day. For example, if your day has started off well and things are going pretty great, you would be able to carry out everything that you may plan. But what if something happens midway, maybe around 1 o'clock, and your routine gets derailed, right? And immediately your mood dips and your productivity also dips, right? So it can change within a day, but it's also important for us to remember that it's okay for things to change, because change is something that is permanent, right? Change is something that's very constant. So it's all right if we're moving from various ends, from the two ends of the spectrum on a day to day basis. But what's important is learning how to take care of ourselves as we change through the spectrum. Now, we'll be specifically looking at these four different areas of how mental health can affect your daily life. So, the first thing is productivity. So, when we're looking at productivity in mental health, it mainly focuses on our cognitive abilities, which means how we're able to think and how well we can use that thinking to get our things done on a day to day basis, right? So, like I said earlier, if you're feeling good, things are well, you'd be able to do whatever task you have in mind. But for example, if you're going through something, right, like maybe work might be too stressful, exams are coming up, and maybe some things are not sitting right in the family, if our mind is preoccupied with something else, it's bound to affect our productivity if we do not know how to take care of the harder things that we may be going through. Because usually, if you've noticed, when we're not feeling okay, our minds may be preoccupied by that one thought, by that one situation that we're going through, and we may not be able to take ourselves out of that situation, right? So, taking care of how we think also affects the way our brain and the rest of our day would look like. So, when we're also looking at relationships is a very profound area for all of us in our lives. And if we have good relationships, our mental health is bound to be in a good place, right? Usually most of the stress that we feel, if it's not work related or family related, it would have to do with our relationships. It could be with a friend, with a colleague, with a family member, if you've had an argument or things are not right. And it is bound to weigh heavy on us as well, because these relationships are important to us. So when we're looking at relationships, learning how to resolve conflicts is important, how to compromise, collaborate, and adjust with each other is important. When we're looking at self-care, I'll get into details of self-care in the next slide. But just as a quick definition, self-care is basically learning how to take care of ourselves physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. All of these four different aspects are included in the area of self-care. And when we're looking at decision making, it looks at how well we're able to make decisions, clearly thinking about the logical aspect, the emotional aspect of it as well. Because for most people who may be struggling, right, somebody may be going through extreme sadness or anxiety or worry, they may not be able to think so clearly as to be able to make a good decision. And maybe it could be even day-to-day decisions. It might be hard for them to even get out of bed or decide to go take a bath or have a good meal, right? So mental health affects all of these different areas as well. So when we're looking at self-care essentially means taking care of yourself and taking the time to do things that would take care of your physical health and your mental health, right? So it's not a luxury as what we may see on Instagram and on social media, but it is a necessity. It may not be so glamorous as how the influencers online make it seem with their fancy cups and their ice and going out to a cafe to have coffee, but it could be as small as learning to make sure that you're eating well, you're getting your 7 to 8 hours of sleep, you're reading, you're studying, you're exercising, right? All of these different things are really important. I'm sure when we were younger, we've heard the phrase all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy. And that is true. We can't just keep focusing on 2, 3 different aspects of our lives and ignore the parts that are important, because we see that if you're not taking care of ourselves, especially our physical health, there's a direct link to our mental health and how we may be thinking and feeling. So, there are 4 key self care strategies when we are looking at taking care of our mental health. So, the first one is physical, right? And physical self care can look like having good, nutritious meals and not just having sugar, fried food, or eating outside. Home cooked food is the best. Making sure that you're exercising in a day. It could be as simple as taking a 10 minutes walk, going for a run, for a jog, or even going to the gym, right? But any form of physical activity that's moving your body. Why? Because when our body is moving, it releases certain chemicals in your brain that makes you feel good, and these chemicals would hold it, kind of surrounds the brain, right? Like we have serotonin and endorphins and dopamine. All of these chemicals become active when we're taking care of ourselves, right? Physical self-care can also look like doing hobbies that work, that you do with your hands. It could be gardening, it could be stitching, it could be coloring, painting, all of these things that involves anything to do with your hands as well. These are really good things that would help your brain. Next is when we're looking at emotional self care, it looks at learning to understand what your emotions are and what those emotions mean, because sometimes we may not even realize what we're going through. We may say that I'm feeling numb or I'm not sure how I'm feeling, right? But sometimes maybe we're just not sure of labeling what those feelings are. It could be anger, it could be frustration, it could be deep, heavy grief that we may be going through, but we're not sure what those emotions are. So, not being able to label what those emotions are would make it difficult for us to understand, okay, this is what I'm feeling today, so how do I take care of it, right? Because sometimes when we do not know, it becomes really hard. For example, if I know that I'm feeling sad, okay, I realize that I'm sad. So the first thing would be, okay, what would help me right now? Maybe I could talk to a friend. Maybe I could just have a warm cup of tea or coffee, and I know that would make me feel better, right? So understanding emotionally where we are and what our emotional state is would help us take care of ourselves better, especially when we're going through the heavier emotions, right? Now, spiritual self care is also very important because this is something that grounds us, especially when things are hard, right? I'm pretty sure for most of us, when things are difficult, the first thing that we would go through is either prayer or worship. And we see how much that changes, because when we're doing that, we're tapping in directly into talking to God and allowing God to come in and tell us what to do and change our surroundings, right? So mostly spiritual self-care is something that's ignored in today's world, but it is so crucial and it's so important to take care of ourselves spiritually, because that's a very core component in our day-to-day lives and in our being as well. When we're looking at social self-care, it looks at surrounding yourselves with good people, but at the same time setting healthy boundaries with people in and around you. Because if we don't have healthy boundaries, we may overstep into somebody's personal bubble, or they may overstep into us, and we may not be clear in telling them, okay, this is what I do not want you to do and this is what I want to do. And if our boundaries are not clear, we may start resenting the person because of what they're doing, and we may start getting angry, which is not good and not healthy for any relationships, right? So what are the results that can come from taking care of ourselves, right? The first thing and the most key thing is mental resilience. Self-care will result to mental resilience, and mental resilience shows up in learning how to adapt to change. You're able to take care of yourselves when things get derailed, because in life we're never so sure about when what can happen, right? So learning how to adapt ourselves through various changes and surroundings, maybe for something as small as you were boiling milk today, we did not look at the burner and the milk has overflowed. Now, how would you adapt to that change, right? Something as small to that to something as big as maybe helping somebody on the road when there is an accident, right? So, learning how to take care of yourself will slowly start building up resilience because you're learning how to adapt in the tiniest things, right? The second one is stress management, which I think it's important for most of us here because stress can come from so many different ways. It can come from family, from work, from our studies, from our exams. So high level of resilience will help you cope well with how you're dealing with stress because you are understanding how you're feeling and you know exactly how to take care of yourself when you're going through stress. Right? The next one is improve mental health. Why? Because physically you're already taking care of yourself, which helps your brain. You're surrounding yourself with good people. Emotionally, you know where you're at. And spiritually, you have a pretty solid grounding in where you are. Next is enhanced problem solving. When we see that when we have a clearer mental state, we're able to make decisions more clearly and we're able to think. Think in a way that would help us problem solve. Because sometimes when we're too occupied by the problem or the worry, we may not be able to see the solutions that we have up ahead of us, right? So taking care of yourself in all of those 4 different areas would enhance your problem solving as well. And we have fostering growth. Now, fostering growth simply means pushing your own personal growth, right? Because challenges will come up day to day in so many different ways. But learning how to deal with all of those things would give you the confidence that, yeah, I can take care of things when things go wrong and when things are not okay, right? So let's look at a few things of what could be the warning signs when we see that our self-care is in danger, right? So the first one is excessive sadness. So if you've been feeling really sad for really long, maybe for a week or so, please get that checked. When you're extremely irritable, like if small things wouldn't irritate you so much, but it's bothering you, right? So that's there. Next is having anger outbursts where small little things can make you angry, but the anger is way out of proportion as compared to the situation. Next, you have rapid mood swings, which looks like you're really happy for 2, 3 days, and then suddenly something goes wrong and your mood just dips down. It goes back all the way down to 0. And then in another 2, 3 days, you're back up to 7 or a 10, right? But if that happens way too often, maybe it's a sign to check in on your mental health. So the lack of sleep, the loss of appetite, you're isolating yourself from people in and around you. You're not having as much energy as you would, even if you're getting enough sleep and rest. You're not able to think clearly, and you're having poor concentration, and you're not able to carry out your tasks. And physically, you might be experiencing headaches, muscle pain, stomach aches can also come. So, all of these signs, if they're lasting for more than a week or a week and a half, that is a sign that it's time to check in on what's going on in our minds. So, self care, even though it's personal, it is something that's still very important, but it is so fun. There's so many different things that you can do when it comes to self care. And after this slide, I'll just quickly show you the different things that we can do to take care of yourself. But it is something that is necessary and it's important. So, please do take care of yourself physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. It'll do wonders even in your day to day life. So, the first thing that we can look at is journaling. Now, journaling is very simple. It could be as simple as just writing about your day and how your day went. It could look like reflecting on how you were feeling throughout the day. It is so vast, right? You can track your emotions, you can track your physical health, you can track your sleep, you can track whether you're drinking enough water. And the best thing is, nobody else is going to read your journal. hopefully, right? It's just going to be yours, and it become a space where you can let out what you're feeling, because for some of us it's really hard to share with other people, right? But having an outlet would be good. The next one is exercise. And exercise, it could be just taking a walk, a 30 minutes walk, going for a quick 10 minutes run, skipping, going to the gym, lifting weights, right? All of these things, even home workouts, if you just put on like a dance, right? Dance is also still a form of exercise. So it's great because it directly affects your physical well being, which improves your mental well being. Next is having something warm, like having a cup of coffee or tea. It's really nice, especially after a very long day, or if you've had like a long meeting. We all know how refreshing one warm drink can look like. Next, we also have creative hobbies. And creative hobbies is great because they help your brain come out of the day-to-day stresses of life, especially when we've had a long day at work, right? Something as simple as coloring, painting. If you play instruments, knitting, crocheting, these days the options are endless. There's so many different things we can do, right? So it'll be great if we could tap into our hobbies and continue to do those things. Eating healthy. Eating healthy is key. It's so important to eat healthy to have a good mental health. We cannot just keep eating sugars and oily food because they don't work so well for our brains, right? So making sure you have a balanced diet of protein, carbohydrates, fibers. Those are really important. And I'm pretty sure your body would also feel good once you start eating well. Sometimes some of us may like to just light up a candle. The smell of it makes us feel calm, right? So that is also something that you can do. Talking about smells, taking a walk in the park also helps because there's fresh air, flowers all around, especially now with all the flowers blooming everywhere. I'm sure it'll be great. And being outdoors, right? Getting the sun, being in the open air, looking at the blue sky. Sometimes we may be so occupied with the things that we're doing, we may not even look out the window, right? So spending some time in nature, listening to the birds, and just seeing trees, right? That would really help, especially on our low days. I would really encourage you to just spend some time outdoors. That would really help. There's bubble bath written here, but sometimes even a nice warm bath would also help us, especially if the day has been like very long and stressful and you're just really tired. A good warm bath can really help us relax and get our muscles to relax as well. And play, right? I know some of us as adults, we forget that it's okay to play and be outside and have fun. For some of us, they're video games. For some of us, it could be board games. For some of us, it could be card games or physically being outside and playing with people, right? It could be a sport. It could be football, basketball, badminton, but please also give yourself some time to play. And yeah, with that, we come to the end of learning how to take care about mental health. And it's not something that should be only once in a while. It's something that is supposed to happen on a daily basis because mental health is also very crucial. So we're going to open this time for questions now. I'll stop sharing my screen so that I can just see everybody.
Yeah, thank you so much, Gabriella, for these very, very helpful tips that you've given us for our self-care. Now it's time for questions. So if any of you have any questions, you can post your question in the chat, or if you would prefer to just unmute, then you can also unmute and ask your questions. Gabriella will answer our questions. And we also have the other faculty who can pitch in. So over to you all students. Anyone who has a question, please put your question in the chat, or you can unmute and ask your questions. Go ahead. Maybe I could get us started off. Just a question that came to my mind even as you were talking about adapting to changes during the day. I mean, unexpectedly something happens that you were not expecting. So at that time, what would be just one or two immediate things that I could do to just adapt to the sudden change? And I mean a change for the worse, in the sense something bad happened which I was not expecting. So how would I adapt to that?
I think one of the main things that we can do, especially when the change is immediate and sudden, it could be just to ground ourselves first before we even go to start adapting to that change. So grounding yourself basically means bringing yourself back into the present, because your mind is already thinking like 10 paces ahead, right? So grounding yourself could look like, okay, taking a good breath of just breathing like, okay, let me think it through, right? So taking a good deep breath. It could look like um, looking around so that you can look at things that would ground you, as in maybe try to pick a color of just like maybe hunt for a color blue. Okay, look at that and maybe just color hunt around the room so that your brain does not solely focus on the emotions and the things that are going wrong, but also looks at, okay, there is something that needs to be fixed. So how can I do that? Right. So before we even try to attack the challenge that has come, it's important for us to just bring ourselves back. So for some people, it could look like breathing. For some people, they might just need to be like, okay, let me just go take a quick walk around the building and I will come back and decide what to do, right? Basically, relieving that stress out of your brain so you can think clearly. Something that could be very small also could be just like washing your hands in cold water. That immediate change of sensory sensations to your body would tap your brain into thinking of something else. So those things can also help.
I think that's helpful. Thanks. Thank you. Yeah. Anyone has any other questions? I can hear someone speaking. Could you unmute? Okay. Maybe that was just an echo. Please go ahead, students. Let's take advantage of this. Yeah.
How can we support a friend who is struggling mentally without making them feel judged or pressured? Okay, so when a loved one is going through mental health struggles, right, I think one of the best things that we can do is just to be present. Sometimes they may not even need us to give them advice or tell them what to do, right? So the first thing is making sure that you're available and you're present and giving them a safe space to be able to just share, right? Mostly having a safe space and being present will give them the opportunity to come and be open with you. And the moment these two criteria are attained, they will just come and start sharing, right? And of course, like you said, making sure that whatever they share, even if it seems trivial to you, do not judge them and be biased with them about it, because for them it is a big deal. And for so many of us, the range at which we may feel different things could be varied, right? It could be very different. So I think the two key things that we can do to make them feel that they are heard and they're supported could be to just be present and to give them a safe space, right? So you can just show up, ask them, if you know that they're struggling, maybe ask them, hey, would you just like to have a cup of coffee, or would you want to come out for a walk? Or if they say no, maybe ask them also, what would they want from you? Because most of the times they may know what they need, but they just need that one person to be there to help them through that journey, right? So just be present and just give them a safe space. It'll sort out half of the problems that we might have in our minds to want to help them. I hope I answered your question. If you have any follow-up questions to that, please feel free to drop them in. The second question is, what is one positive thing you can tell yourself when you feel down? It could be even just one word, right? Like, I can do it. I'll be able to do it and I'll get through. I think one of the things that I would normally tell myself is like, Jesus has already gone ahead. I don't have to worry about it anymore. Like, that's the one thing that has pulled me through so much, by just saying that Jesus has already walked before me. I'll be able to take care of it. And that just brings my stress down a lot, because I know that the one person who can change things has already gone ahead to change things for me, right? So that is something that I use. Other things that you can use could be like, I've done this before. I'm strong enough to be able to do it. I will be able to do it. Something as strong as I can do it or I will do it would also immediately tap into your brain to be like, okay, it is a command that I will be able to do it, so I can just do it, right? very, very simple sentences. There's no need for big, complicated sentences. Simple 3 words: I can do it, I will do it, I will be able to do it, I can do this, right? Those things can really pull you through as well.
If you have any follow-up questions, Dinesh, you can always post them in the chat. Oh, okay, yeah. Dinesh says that he's perfectly okay with the answer. Yes. Do we have any other questions coming up?
Actually, I have a question. And let's see who would be who. I mean, it's. I'm just curious. I would just like to know, how do you take care of your mental health? Like everybody who's here, I know all of us have different things that we do for ourselves. So, how do you take care of your mental health? If anybody would like to answer, you can unmute. Even if you say that you take care of your mental health by sleeping, I'll also take that as an answer.
I have
Go
a
to the
couple of
word of
favorite
God.
verses. Oh, sorry. Please go ahead. Shaman, I think. Go ahead. Yeah.
Yes. Just go to the word of God and, build up spiritually.
That's really nice to hear.
Because when you're inner man, when we are feeding our inner man, then everything, and we have the mind of Christ, that is just my go-to. Jesus and his word never fails.
Yes, amen. Thank you so much for sharing. How many of us here use food to cope? How many of us tend to eat? I know I'm one of them. If that's you, you can just drop in a reaction so that I know I'm not alone.
And yeah, Pastor Ashish has added that praying in the spirit, meditating on the word, exercising, and learning new things also helps us in taking care of our mental health.
Yeah, that's really nice. Pray in the spirit and a warm shower. Okay, there are 2 more questions that has come in.
Dinesh
What
has asked, what are some common signs that someone is struggling with their mental health? Yeah, could you help us out with that question?
Yeah, so when somebody is struggling, the first few things that you could look at is physically whether they look okay, right? They may be, they might tell you things as, I haven't been sleeping well, or they may say that I'm not hungry, I'm not able to eat, right? It could also look like they're isolating themselves from people and they may not want to be around people, even their friends, right? They may choose not to respond to texts, not respond to messages. They would rather be alone. So these are a few things that are very prominent you can look at. If there is any form of social isolation, if you can see that they're not sleeping well, if they're not eating well, these are key things that you can use to look at. That's there. If you have, but these are very common. These are the common signs that you can look out for. And the second one is how to develop our memory power. So when we're looking at memory, there are a few key things that you can actually do. There are different strategies. I'm pretty sure some of us we may have used these in school, but one thing could be repeating and rereading the same things over and over again, right? It could be a repetition or just listening to that. If we're looking at learning to memorize longer things and longer passages, breaking them down into smaller keywords. For example, if you look at the word rest, and if you could use that as an acronym, right? For example, maybe R meaning respect, E meaning exercise, S meaning sleep, and T maybe taking care of yourself, right? So breaking down huge information into like acronym words, that can really help your brain memorize huge chunks of information more. And one of the most simple things that we can do is repetition and recall. So you read something and you repeat it to yourself out loud and let your brain register what you've heard. So maybe these are a few things you can try. In case if you'd like more, just feel free to reach out and we can see what else we can do with that. There is one more in the chat. If someone gets angry from even small issues, is that mental health issue or character issue? And how to help them when they are not really interested in taking help, and how shouldn't we get affected by these situations? This is actually, it's a real thing, right? If somebody gets angry for small issues, I think one thing that we can look at to see whether it's something that is related to mental health or something that is a personality that the person has could be if this person is always like this, or has it been just between a particular season. So if the person has not been like this before and has just adapted this very recently, it could be that maybe something is there on the back end that they're not able to think through and look at, that it's making the small things also very irritable to them, right? And that is only if it's for a season. But if it's something that they've been like that since before, then it could be just a personality trait that they have, right? So that is my answer to the first question. The second one, how to help them when they're not really interested in taking help. You may not like the answer, but usually if somebody does not want help, it's really hard to give them the help that they need, right? Even though we see that, okay, this person genuinely needs help. But I think one thing that we can do is just be present and be there with them, right? And help them in the very little ways. Of course, this might take a lot of your energy to even do that, especially when it has something to do with anger, or it's a situation that needs a lot of your emotional energy to pull through, right? But I think the best thing that we can do is also show grace to them, because sometimes they may not know that they need help, right? And for them to come to a place to understand that they need help might take forever and might take really, really long. So making sure that you don't get affected by it, make sure that your boundaries are also clear, help them to the extent that you can. Like, don't overpour so much that you may feel then resentful from helping them, or get angry and be like, this person is always like this and I'm so tired of helping them, right? So the moment you see that that border or that line has been crossed, that means it's time for you to take care of yourself so that you don't get affected by the situation that's happening then. So just to quickly summarize all the three answers, if somebody is getting angry, and if they've been like that for forever, it's possibly a personality trait. But if it's something that has just been for a season, maybe it could be something at the back that's affecting them. That's why they're getting angry with small things. When people need help, they would genuinely seek out for help. And if you're not able to help them, the best thing that we can do is show grace and just be present and help them to the best of our abilities, and make sure that if it's getting too much for us, we pull ourselves away so that you can then take care of yourself. If you have any follow-up questions to that, please feel free to put them in. I can address them. The next one is
question. Yeah. Shall I just read that out for you?
Yes, sure.
Yeah. So Sohliya's question is, how can someone improve their social self-care if they are naturally introverted or struggle to connect with others? Are there healthy ways they can slowly build connections while still respecting their personality and comfort level?
Yeah, this is a really nice question. And there are a few things that we can do, right? So when we're looking at a relationship, it's a two-way thing, right? We cannot just expect one person to come and build a relationship. A relationship always involves two or more people. So maybe a few things that we can do to help ourselves reach out is maybe start small, right? Maybe not even have a 10-minute conversation. Start with 2, 3 questions that you can ask the person. How are you? And then be like, I'm doing fine. How are you? And you could be like, I'm keeping well. How has your week been? How has your day been? And what are the different things that you do? You can even end it there, right? Start small, building very small conversations, and then building up again when you meet them the next time, right? So that pressure of, okay, I need to have a long conversations with them, 10 to 15 minutes, maybe not the best to have in mind, especially when we're people who prefers our personal space and we like our own comfort. So starting small and building small relationships through talking to people little by little every day, because I understand that some of us may not have that much of a social battery to be out there and talk to so many people all the time. So start small. Have a quick 5-minute conversation with somebody, right? No pressure of holding it for long. And after that 5-minute conversation, if you feel like that was a bit too much, completely okay to take your space, have some water, listen to some songs, and then talk to another person again, right? But it's completely okay to build small conversations. So maybe something that we can keep in mind is having quick short conversations. Cut it at like 3 to 4 questions or like 5 minutes max, and you can end it there. Maybe you can also end the conversation like, it's been so nice talking to you. I'll catch you up again next time or next week, right? So maybe rehearsing a few questions in mind can also help, so that you don't have to think and rack your brain too much when you're talking to somebody. So these are a few things that you can do. And slowly start building that relationship when you meet them day to day or once a week and things like that. But at the same time, also making sure that you're getting the rest that you need. I hope I've answered your question. You can please feel free to ask me a follow-up again if needed.
Yeah, Lucy's question is more with parenting, with all the current day pressures, especially in the IT fields. She asks, how do we help our children in handling them wisely?
Mm. So I think one of the main things that comes with IT pressure is the workload that they're coming in, right? So I think how we can support them is helping them take care of their basic needs, like making sure that they're having good nutrition, making sure that they're getting rest. Rest is so crucial, and that they're also spending time with other people. So the three things of physical self-care, nutrition, and social self-care, right? That they're not isolated from themselves, that they're also not bringing work home, because sometimes when we are too occupied with work, the pressure, we are not able to separate ourselves from that pressure, right? So, and also maybe as simple as a question as asking them, what can we do to help them? Maybe I think sometimes when, especially during exams, I just remember when it gets too much, and then like if my parents see me, they would just ask me like, okay, what do you want? I could be like, can you just get me like a chocolate donut or something? That would just make me feel better, right? So we should not underestimate that one question that we can ask, what can I do to help you here, right? Because sometimes we would genuinely be able to tell you what we need, right? So maybe you can just ask them also, this is something that, like, what would you want me to do? How can I help you? And just making sure that physically they're eating well, they're getting some form of exercise. Maybe when they come back home, just like a quick walk around the block or something like that. And that they're not just working throughout, and also that they're spending time with other people. I think these are a few things that can take their minds off of work and for them to be able to connect back into the real world. And but then if somebody else can also answer this question, I think that would be great. If somebody else from the team has an answer to this, I think that would be good. Just wait to see if somebody unmutes.
Okay, maybe we'll just move on to the next question simply because we lack time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So we have Daniel asking, when there is a mental problem, how do I know whether it's a spiritual problem or a physical, worldly problem?
I think the answer to this would be asking God's discernment for it. I don't think there's any other way, right? Because I think we know that sometimes the physical and the mental problems that we have can be spiritual, but the line sometimes is very blurred. It's very thin, and sometimes there might be an overlap, right? So I think a few things that we can look at practically is see if certain signs are solely because of our doing, right? Suppose like if we're not sleeping enough and then we're not able to concentrate, that's actually our fault. If we're not eating good, healthy food, and that is in turn affecting our physical health, and obviously it's going to affect our mental health. Now, that is something that is on us, and that is something that we need to take care of. And if we're also somebody who tends to worry so much, that can also be us, right? But sometimes certain things like fear, like it's just unnatural fear that you're coming from somewhere. And we know that God has not given us a spirit of fear. So using God's discernment and asking Him to help us sort out, we'll be able to know what is what. Because like I said earlier, sometimes the lines are so blurred. And the only way that we can know for sure what could be the reason of the cause is discernment. So learning how to discern in this way takes a lot of practice. It takes a lot of time, because the more you engage yourself in learning how to discern and asking God's guidance for it, the sharper that sense would be, right? But for a few things that could be something physical, we'll need to just like check on ourselves first, like whether I've been taking care of myself well, whether I've been doing certain things well. If all that is checked, then maybe we can look at the different area also. I hope I've answered your question. If not, just feel free to question me, debate with me, ask me, and that would be better.
Thank you. Yeah. So we have a question from Sunil. If we could start with one small habit today to improve our mental health, what would you suggest?
Exercise. Please exercise. Exercise is key. It will take care of half of the problems that we have. So just get some exercise, get some workout in place. Even if it's just a 15-minute walk, that would also help.
Thank you. Yeah, we have Biju's question. As age progresses, does the ability to control the emotions decrease and mental health does it come down? How can we support the elderly people, especially nowadays in nuclear families everywhere?
Okay, so just to address the first part of it, this depends on how much we can engage ourselves cognitively and take care of ourselves. So basically self-care, right? So if you've started your self-care and it's something that has become a routine and a habit, the decline, like of course, as we grow older, the decline tends to take place, but the rate at which you're declining will drastically decrease, especially if you're already taking care of yourself, right? So if you're exercising well, you're eating well, you're cognitively still active, which means you're still thinking, reading, participating in your hobbies and doing things that will keep you active, the decline will drastically reduce. Like the time taken will become longer, right? So that is one thing that we can do, because yes, the decline does happen and the decline is real. So I think if you notice that mostly when you look at people who are still physically active and fit, right, even in their 50s and 60s, their minds are still very alert because they're still able to tackle so many things, right? So taking care of yourself, so self-care is, this is why self-care is very key, because the decline will take place, but you can actually shorten that by taking care of yourself physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. So eating well, exercising well, engaging yourself in tasks that will keep your brain alert and active, those are things that we can do. And how can we support elder people, especially nowadays with nuclear families? One thing is something as small as just frequent visits. If visits are not possible, even a call, right? Because that builds in that social relationship that you have and makes sure that, you know, they are still in touch, because human touch and human connection is really important. The second thing is making sure that they're eating well, right? Like just making sure that all of their meals are good meals. If they need medication, that is something that they can do, and something fun that you can also do with them, right? Especially if it's older people. If it's like if you would go on walks with them before, or if you used to play games together, or something as small as like making puzzles together also, right? Because it's something that will make their brain active and also bring in certain form of joy, like just like spending time together, right? So spending time together would be great, but I know that sometimes with time it becomes like really hard to even go somewhere, and with traffic might be a little tough. So just giving them a call, making sure that they're eating well, good nutrition, and that they are also occupied with other things, right? Like maybe in their readings, in their hobbies, like gardening or like crosswords or Sudoku, all these things really work wonders for the brain, keeps them well.
Thanks a lot, Gabriella. You've been very, very helpful with all of our questions. Yeah. So everyone, have a great day. We will be closing now. Thanks for attending and thanks for participating. Thanks for all of your questions. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much.